Alright, hi. Sorry I couldn't make it today, so I've recorded this in advance. My project is about the risk that earthquakes pose to the semiconductor industry. So let's go to the introduction. Recently, the demand for computer chips has increased, which has caused a shortage. If you've been looking for the latest PlayStation or Xbox, or if you're in the market for a new CPU or GPU, you'll know that they're out of stock everywhere and near impossible to find at retail pricing. This is the reason why. The automotive industry is also having issues. Cars increasingly contain more advanced electronics, requiring more chips. When their factories shut down during the COVID-19 pandemic, they also cut orders for new chips. Now, many factories have had to shut down production again due to the lack of chips. Several major chip designers and foundries agree that this situation is likely to last until 2023, when new factories are expected to come online. The supply chain is vulnerable to disruptions such as the pandemic, the ongoing drought in Taiwan, accidents and fires in factories, and earthquakes. The majority of semiconductors are manufactured in the eastern part of Asia, which lies in a seismically active region called the Ring of Fire. Let's move on to the data. So I've used three main datasets for my project. I used national export statistics to show which countries are the greatest exporters of semiconductors. My data comes from the UN Comtrade database, as well as statistics from Taiwan and Hong Kong. Now, the reason why I need Taiwan and Hong Kong data is a little bit different. For Taiwan, it is not formally recognized by the UN, so no quote-unquote official data exists for Taiwan, but there is a kind of loophole, and I used Taiwanese statistics to corroborate the figure. For Hong Kong, the UN figure just seemed wrong. It was way too big, so I went straight to the source to get an accurate figure. Secondly, I wanted to know where in the world these fabs are located, so I had two options. I could pay $4,000 for access to a dataset, or I could collect it myself. It was boring. After collection, I geocoded the addresses I had collected using the Google Maps API to get coordinates. My final dataset was a GSHAP seismic hazard map, which contains the peak ground acceleration that has a 10% probability of being exceeded in a 50-year duration. And I would have liked to use a newer dataset, but I couldn't find one that was GIS friendly. Anyway, I have mapped this GSHAP map to the modified Mercalli intensity scale, which I will describe shortly in a bit. So this is a cartogram of the 2019 exports of integrated circuits, and it's clear to see that Asia is by far the most important region. Some continents barely even exist on this map. The exports from Europe and America is about the same, while South America, Africa, and Australia barely even exist on the map. Right. So this is a cluster map of all the fabs that I found in my dataset. And like the previous map, it also shows how the production is distributed. But now we can zoom in and get information on the city level and even finer. And I'll need this for my analysis. So before I show this next map about the seismic hazard, just a quick introduction to seismic magnitude and intensity. So magnitude scales, such as the Richter scale, it describes the overall size of, or the energy of the energy that is contained in the earthquake. Intensity scales describe the locally observed effects of the earthquake. For example, a massively powerful earthquake on the other side of the planet probably won't be felt by you. These fabs are to some degree designed to withstand earthquakes, therefore damage is unlikely to occur to these buildings at intensity levels less than 8 on the MMI scale. So intensities below that I ignored for the project. And you'll see in the table I've marked a danger zone for when damage actually starts to occur to buildings. Yes. So this is the G-shaped seismic map, and as mentioned, I mapped it to the modified locality intensity scale. And it's clear to see which regions are the most hazardous, namely the island nations, so Japan, Taiwan, Philippines, and then Western China. And if we combine this with the location of the fabs, then we get this. And this shows the risk that earthquakes pose to the semiconductor industry in a particular area. And the red area in northern Taiwan, that's Hsinchu. It's the home to the world's largest chip foundry, TSMC, and several other large chip manufacturing companies. So the rest of the world is not as badly impacted by earthquakes as Asia, mainly due to the lower concentration and, in general, lower risk of earthquakes. So that's it for me. I hope you liked it.